Hey, it's Thomas from Lessons Behind the Wheel. There's many times throughout the day where I try and get very clear with all the craziness that goes on around you on a day-to-day basis. Trying to cut that out and push things away has been a really big challenge for me. I tend to like to jump into things and do things, but I look at a lot of different things that are going on around me, and many times they don't make a lot of sense. And it seems like there's there's a more simple way to get things done, and people try and do it the hard way. I've really learned to be very direct and give my opinion in the best possible light that I can when things aren't going the way I think they should be. But when I look at the people that are out there and that are like mentors to me, and Darren Hardy says it the best. He says, a mentor doesn't have to be somebody you actually know. It could be through a book or through a video or somebody you look up to because you think they have expertise. But there's a lot of mentors out there that I get through listening. I mean, being in the car a lot, I listen, I try and understand. And many people are starting to think like I do, which is really funny because for the last 15 or 20 years, I've been saying things and everybody told me that, oh, please, that's not right. You can't do that. You can't say this. You can't curse. You can't. There's a lot of different things that people told me, and I kept fighting my own inner being. And it turns out that now people are starting to say and do the things that I was doing back then. One of them being the fact that we have raised a generation of marshmallows by giving them a trophy for everything and telling them they're great at everything. And we've really set these kids up for failure because they don't know how to fail. And when they try and do something and they can't do it or it doesn't work out, they don't know how to cope. And I've been saying it for the last 15 or 20 years that this is the wrong way to go. And every article and every, information coming out from education that this was the right way to go. And it just didn't make any sense. And now everybody's coming around saying, look what we did. We made these kids, they can't do this, they can't do that. And it's not only those kids, it's the parents too. Because the parents were brought up pretty much the same way. So if you go back 30 years... probably when, right before that is when all this started, the first generation sort of had only 50% of this going on. But the second generation had it all going down. From the very moment, they would get a star and they would, they're not told that things are doing wrong and you had to always be positive with the kid. And it's just the opposite of the way nature is. Nature, you do something wrong and you get your head bit off. You know what? And if you're being chased by a lion and you get away, but you got beat up a little bit along the way, the next time you figure out a way not to get chased by the lion. So that's the first thing. The second thing is not telling your kids when they're young that they're doing something wrong. They're acting out in a way that they shouldn't be acting, and it's, you got to sit them down, you got to put them on the step, you got to put them in the corner, you got to give them a timeout. And I was brought up with my father telling me, in a very loud way when things weren't going the way it should be, that's wrong. Stop it, depending, some of it was inflicting minor pain, meaning, pulling the little hairs on the back of my head or grabbing my knee or grabbing me by the arm and not hurting me, but letting me know that what I was doing wasn't correct, and it sort of got my attention. My dad was not a guy that would beat you up. At 5'8" and 165 pounds soaking wet, he wasn't really beating anybody up, although he was probably one of the toughest guys I've ever met. He had forearms like Popeye. But he wanted to get your attention and get your attention quick. And when I had kids, I remember standing on the sidewalk with him, and we were with somebody else and in my family, and the kid started running towards the street, and the mom was trying to say, oh, don't do that, it's not right. And my father just went, hey, stop! And the kid stopped and turned around, and then he told him what was wrong. But he got his attention. And, the whole situation died down and stuff, and I was talking to my dad, and I said, Dad, they don't want you to do that anymore, you're not supposed to do it. And he said, listen to me. I'm going to teach you the way this is done. The way this is done is when I say something, you react the way I say. And he said, the reason I am doing that is not because I'm almighty and powerful. He said, because I want you to know when it's life or death, that when I say stop, you stop. He said, think about it this way. You have a child and you're running around in an apartment building and the elevator opens up, but there's no elevator there. And your child is running towards that elevator. And you want that kid to stop because if he doesn't stop, he's going to die. Would you rather throw pillows at him and have a discussion with him and try and calm him down before he goes too far? Or he goes, no, you want him to stop. So I brought you up to know that when I said something, it was the law, and you had to follow the law. And I thought it was the most ingenious way of him explaining to me why he would do something like that. And it made a lot of sense, and my kids were brought up the same way then. When I said no, it was no. When I said stop, it was stop. And if they didn't, there was a punishment for it. And the punishment was, not go sit in the corner and be quiet. The punishment was something else, whether it was me grabbing them or making them do something else. Or, I remember times when, my kids, were going to stay up all night and they were being stubborn. And I sat them in a chair in the middle of the room and I sat next to them and I said, you're going to go to sleep. And no, screaming and yelling, screaming and yelling, screaming and yelling. And I said to him then, you're not going to win. I will sit up here, and I have an ability to sit up a lot longer than my kids did. I said, I'm going to sit up here until you fall off that chair. And I can tell you, every single time, they fell off the chair and I didn't. So this is another lesson. When I say something, or when a parent says something, the child has to listen. This is a parent-child thing. This is not a debate. Most people think this is a debate. I tell my kids all the time, they'll say something. I think you forgot the rule. Parent-child, parent-child. Now they laugh at it because they're older. But getting across to them at an early age that, at this stage of the game, when you're at this level, what I say goes. The last thing is, I was always brought up to not talk in the presence of other adults. Now, in the beginning, people said that's cruel, my father was teaching me to learn, to listen, to absorb the things of the people that were around me. Instead of me sitting there and mouthing off, because at the age of 10 to 25, you don't know shit. But instead of mouthing off, my dad was teaching me to listen. And back then, I didn't know what he was doing, but he was a genius. He really, really had a handle on what needed to get done to make me the best prepared man that I could be. And I can tell you that me being around adults and just listening made me a better person all around. I got to learn things. I was able to talk about things when I got older. I was able to know who was good at what, where to network with different people, how to network with different people, how do people interact with each other, where to draw the line, where not to draw the line. There was so much of that going on that if I was just yapping away, I would have lost all those lessons. The final thing that really comes to mind is this. Everything you need to learn in life, you can learn on a basketball court. And why do I say this? And when I say it needs to be a basketball court, I mean in a park, not in your backyard, and not on a play date, and not in a place that they have all pillows on the ground so if you fall down you don't get hurt. I mean, you need to be at a park. You need to be in a place where there's a whole bunch of other people, and you need to learn the game. And when I say the game, I mean this. You need to learn what pecking order is, right? You're the youngest, and the guy that hasn't proved himself, you start at the bottom. You're the last to be picked, okay? You need to learn patience, right? Because you have to sit around until the games get really shitty and somebody needs somebody because everybody else went home. You need to understand what it is to get there early. The early bird gets the worm. If you get there early and you're playing on the court and your team is winning, you don't have to get off the court. So you're playing with better competition, and you're challenging yourself and you're pushing yourself. The next thing you need to learn is you're my enemy now, but you're my friend when you're on my team. So we're together and we're best friends. When you're on the other team, what goes on between the lines is real. You know, it's hard. It's pushing. When you get off the court, you're friends. So you need to learn how to what I'll call change hats, right? The next thing you need to learn is that you need to work to get better. You need to work to gain respect. You need to work to have other people notice you. And that work is not done on the court. That work is done in practice. That work is done when no one's looking. That work is done before everybody gets there. That work is done after everybody leaves. The other thing you need to understand, and what it teaches you rather, is the escalation of emotion. You know, you're on a court and there's bound to be an argument. Well, how does that argument escalate into a fight? How do you de-escalate it? You know, how do you keep people out of it and let two people work it out? When's the right time to get in between? And what that teaches you is that no one can buy into anything unless their opinion is voiced. Listen to that again. No one can buy into anything unless their opinion is voiced. If somebody hears you, at the end of the day, if it's a bad call, you move on. But as long as you were able to voice your opinion, that's all you really want. So this is my little words of wisdom for today. I know this is a longer video. You know, it's a Monday. Things are, you know, not really up to speed. You know what tomorrow is, right? Tomorrow's Tuesday. And we got things to do on Tuesday. And we'll get to that in the morning. But these are the things that are important, and these are the things that we need to understand. And if you don't understand it, go get help. Go get a mentor. Go speak to somebody that's a little bit older and a little bit wiser. But these are the things you need to do. So that's my lessons for today. Have a great one. Bye-bye.